All right. Well, thank you to the community members who came out today in the rain. Um, so this talk is going to be about the circling retreat, circling and meditation retreat that we had for the past week. And Jennifer was with us for the weekend portion of that. So it was a really amazing experience. So I'll be taking us through that process a little bit, so you can get a feel for what it was like, and sharing just some of what made it so important for me. So first of all, for those who haven't heard about it before, do you have any familiarity with circling or no? Okay. So for this retreat, we did do meditation like we usually do, but we also did circling. And this is it's a way of connecting with people where you're looking to go below the surface a little bit, where it provides a space where you can explore why we do what we do, and you're with a group of people who are helping you to discover that. So but it's really hard to explain. That probably didn't mean too much to you. So to start out, we can show you quickly what one form of circling is like. So this is called a birthday circle, and it was so nice to be in that circle with you, Jennifer. So for this, what it is you're putting your attention on the person who's being circled, and also yourself in connection with that person. So for example, you're trying to totally be with them. So if you're doing meditation, for example, maybe you're trying to be with your breath or with your core or whatever your focus space is. Welcome.
Thank you. Hi.
Hey. But in a birthday circle, what you're doing is you're focusing on that person, seeing them as they are, and also yourself in connection with that person. So if you take, for example, you're looking at the floor, what your experience is like, but then you look at another person, you're having a different experience. So it's noting what's happening in your body or what your emotions are, what's coming up for you while you're with that person. So we'll do this for 3 minutes. So I invite you to put your focus on me right now and to note what's happening in yourself while you're in connection with me. And there's no right things that can come up. It could be pain in your arm. It could be joy, boredom. Just try to note what's happening. And the residents will be engaging in that with me. So, can somebody keep time? 3 minutes? All right.
Noticed I was like really shaky as you were talking.
When you say that, I feel my heartbeat like low over here.
I observed you rubbing your hands on your knees, and like I was imagining like maybe there was like some slight bit of nervousness that was associated with that movement, maybe unconsciously. That was sort of the story I was telling as I saw you doing that. I'm curious if like, I don't know. Does that resonate?
Yeah, that resonates. Yeah, definitely nervous.
What's the nervousness feel like in your body?
It's like this fluttery right here. And feeling some anxiety about using the word fluttery. It feels kind of like a typical word that doesn't actually mean anything.
Like an urge to say something, like unveil something that's not what I imagined this would be like. Like I imagined that we would ask you and that you would say something about being nervous because I just thought you would probably be nervous. So I'm like I'm wanting you to say something other than that. Like I have this weird desire for that. I don't know why.
imagine you feeling really confused by
Yeah,
pan, right?
I think I confused myself as I was saying that. As I was saying it, I felt my words just being really confusing. Did you experience confusion or?
I felt just kind of blank,
Yeah.
and I was feeling like, oh, I shouldn't be feeling blank. I should be having interesting thoughts or feeling intense emotions. But then I felt like really warm toward you, and after Miles said that, and we were talking.
Did you get a haircut? You look like you're different. Like you got a haircut or something.
I noticed your smile and it made me happy. You brought joy and a sort of light feeling in my chest and up here. Feeling more connected with this eye contact right now.
Just my breath is up here now.
And 3 minutes.
All right. Thank you. That was intense. Yeah. And that was also cool because the way I got into and learned about this place was in Boston with Peter. They would do this practice where in the beginning somebody would come up and they called it presenting, where you would just be as real as possible. And I was always nervous about doing that, so this was kind of like that. So that was a birthday circle, and for the weekend portion, we had 14 guests come up, and we did a lot of birthday circles, and it was amazing how powerful these were. There was a space for people to connect in so many different ways. People would share really important stories about their lives, or they would just be silent, or they would start to experience really intense emotions that were real, very real to them. And it was amazing to be with people while they were going through this and to be supporting them in this. So it was a beautiful weekend. It was hot. It was sunny. People are out in the pond. Well,
Your story.
yeah, I just felt like I got nervous when you said it. I was like, oh no, am I making this up? Was it not hot?
It was warm.
It was warm? Okay. It feels better. So something I forgot to mention is because I think it's useful and it's something I really love about circling is just the constant support of people. So throughout this talk, Peter and Miles, if they feel the urge, will be checking in with me about why, what are you feeling right now, or why did you say that, or so they're not trying to ruin the talk or bully me or anything. It's just yeah. So anyway, it was a beautiful weekend. I thought it was hot, and and then 13 of the guests left, and one guest stayed, and then one new guest came, and we were going to continue circling for the rest of the week. And we started doing a different process, and this one is called surrendered leadership. And my first experience with surrendered leadership was back when we lived in Johnson. So we had done circling before, we had done birthday circles, and it was wonderful. It was really getting to see the people you're living with for who they are, and it was like, this is so cool. I'm gonna do more of this. And so it's time to do it. We go down, we're all around the fireplace, and Peter's leading it. And I'm like, all right, I can't wait to get into this. Who's gonna be circled tonight? And Peter's kind of just hanging out, not doing anything. And and I'm like, all right, starting to get kind of frustrated. All right, come on, this is such a cool chance. Why are we just talking about movies and nothing important? and then after like 10 minutes, other people start to make comments like they have an idea, they want to do this. This person wants to do this. This person wants to change the way we're sitting. And after about 15 minutes or so, I realized we're doing this process called surrendered leadership, where there's no person who's there saying, okay, we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this. Instead, you're with a group of people in a circle, and whatever happens, happens. And there's some basic guiding principles to this. So you're working to connect with people, you're working to be as authentic as you feel you can be at the moment. But at any moment you could stand up and start having exchange eye contact with one person. You could join a group of 3 people off to the side. You could all be in it together. You could lie down. It's just taking away a lot of the norms we expect in a group setting. So we're going to do this for a week. And so we start off, and you're there. We're in this loft space up in the building, and we start off by meditating, and we ring the bell, we meditate, we ring the bell again, and you raise up your eyes, and then you're in the circle. And there's no rules, right? So you're just like, okay. And so at this point, maybe some people will start noticing things. Like maybe someone might say like, oh, I notice you have your arms crossed, and I imagine you're feeling defensive. Things like that. Or maybe people start moving, or people are just silent. There's just this whole range of activity happening. And for me, the typical experience during these was that I wanted everybody to be using this time to go as deep as they can, break down all these patterns that we've had since we were born, and just have really intense experiences. And other people didn't want to do that, didn't think that was the thing to be doing right now. And for me, I thought I was right. I thought that was the way we should be doing it. So I would become angry and frustrated, and I would be judging the people who were not engaging in the way I thought they should be. So the main frustrations were not going deep enough and wanting attention. Those were the things that I was mulling over a lot. And it started to kind of become clear that I was doing both of these things, and that's why it was so frustrating to me. In a retrospect, it was really just that I wanted to have a really deep experience, and I wanted this attention, and I wasn't getting it from the group because other people, I perceived them as wanting attention. So that happened for a few days, and then I think the second to last day, actually, the attention came on me where the group was going to work with me and work through some patterns. And I think it actually happened because I think Miles said, Jango, what are you stewing about over there? And I was stewing about people wanting attention, of course. And but I finally got the attention. And so this process was happening where people were engaging with me, and we were starting to tap into what was real in me, and starting to feel what was blocking me from being real. And what would come up would be I would frequently share my anxieties. So it would be things like, I just realized I'm totally not in my body at all right now. So I would share things like, I'm getting nervous that I'm not saying anything, and I think that you're all going to be bored and want to leave. Or what I just said doesn't sound intelligent, and I worry that you're judging me for that. And it was all the same. It just sounded the same thing over and over. And we start to get into this. It just started to feel stagnant, like we weren't getting anywhere. And Peter kind of started to identify this voice actually, and he named it for me. He offered me a name of Tim. So like when that voice comes up, that's Tim. And and it was great because it would be like I would once again share a new anxiety because I felt like I had to, and Peter's off to my side and all quiet and sweet, and he'd be like, yeah, we know Tim, we know. We want to hear Jango. We want to meet Jango. We never really have met him. And so I'm like, okay, that's nice. And then go back to it. But it kept happening where I felt like I needed to share my anxieties. I couldn't just be who I am if that's an embarrassing thing or it's not as intelligent as I want to be or not as interesting as I want to be. I couldn't just be that without letting everyone know that I knew I was being boring. I knew I was not being intelligent. So Tim kept coming up and telling people that, and the group was so wonderful. He kept being like, "Hey Tim, there you are. But like right now we want to meet Jango. We told you that." And when it came down to it, they were telling me I need to go into my body and I need to go from there. And I would try, and I'd be like, I feel my heartbeat, or oh, I feel my feet. And my thought was, am I just gonna sit here for an hour and share mundane observations about what I'm kind of feeling? I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. And I couldn't go deep enough to actually feel anything significant. So I just kept sharing Tim's thoughts. So that circle ended, and it just kind of stayed at that level. And I could feel that I could have really gleaned a lot of truth from that, but I didn't get there because I was too in Tim. So that ended, and then I went to the snack table. We had this wonderful snack table set up, and one of the guests comes over to me, and I'm expecting like this big, maybe the guest will be embarrassed to talk to me or feel bad for me, or will engage in this big conversation about life and having two sides of you and whatnot. And she's just I think we're eating like celery and carrots, and she's just like, hey, like I noticed you weren't feeling your body too much, and I learned this technique where you can really feel your body. It's this whole process. It's great. I can give you the website and I can show you it. So casual like that. And it struck me because this wasn't this big existential problem. It was just, oh, you're not so good at feeling your body and you need to practice that. And that really struck me because I always heard you should be in your body, but now it's becoming really clear that you shouldn't just be in your body. Like, this is really important to be in your body, not just something you should be doing. To the point where I saw clearly that I didn't trust that. When it came down to it in that circle, I chose to come away from my body. So that happens. It was nice to hear that advice from her. And then we go into the evening, and then it's a very different feel at night. For me, it felt a little bit more wild. Once again, you're in this circle, all these different things are happening. Some people are doing like interesting communication through hand signals and all this. People are talking across the room. And right across from me, I noticed one of the other guests, and I wanted to connect with her, but I felt a little afraid to. But this time I look over and she connects with me, and the first thing she says to me is, I really don't want to be in this connection with you right now. And that was awesome to hear that, because that's my fear. I'm afraid. Everyone I talk to, not everybody, but frequently a fear that comes up for me is that people won't want to be engaging with me. They'll want to break off from the conversation. And of course, I think this is just always happening. You know, maybe I don't want to be in a conversation, maybe somebody else doesn't. This is just a part of interacting with people. It's part of life. So it was so nice to just have it in the open. I don't have to worry if it's happening. it's happening. Great. Cool. But she didn't leave. She didn't turn away. She said, I don't want to be in this connection with you, but she stayed with me. And so I felt on one part very appreciative of what I just shared about how that felt. And I also felt a little bit like, all right, well, I'm not going to break eye contact until you do, because why did I say that? I don't know, but a little feeling of like, all right. So I'm going to force you to look at me unless... So we're doing this, and with her, once again, it comes down to you need to be in your body. Not you need to be in your body, but she says she realized the reason she didn't want to be in connection was because I wasn't in my body. And so I'm like, all right, like I'll try a bit, and I'm trying to get in there, and it's cool, starting to get more focused. The sounds all around, and the people around are starting to, the vision's getting a little bit blurry. And now at this point, she's ahead of me, and she's kind of like, she looks like she's in a video game at this point, because I've just been staring at her for so long. And just like a video game, she offers me a challenge. She's like, can you just be with me right now? Just with me, just this. I'm like, all right, like, I got this. And so I try that. I try just to be feeling my body and being with her. And Tim's coming after it. I'm like, no, I'm gonna try this. And it was powerful. So that day ends, next day starts, and I'm noticing there's a shift where I keep staying in my body. And I start to notice there was this activity that we did when we did a vision quest, actually, in August. And the instructor had tied a rope around me, and he had two of the residents on each side, and they would pull, and I would be forced to go. And they pull the other side, and I'd be forced to go. And he was saying how he perceived that this was the way I was making a lot of decisions, just kind of being pulled by my thoughts without it really being me. I started to notice this clearly. I was going into like obsessive mode in the bathroom with blow my nose, I want to wash my face, I want to wash my hands, do this and that. And it felt just like that. I'm just being pulled here and there. I don't want to do any of this. And I started to really trust when I was in my body what that felt like. It felt so much more real. It felt like this is who I am. So at this point, I start to take this to an extreme where I'm like, okay, I'm just going to be in my body. That's all. So now we're doing the circling, and instead of the typical where I'm gonna get up and think, oh, maybe I should look at this person, maybe they want to look at me, maybe they don't want to look at me, this person's being annoying, etc. I am just gonna be in my body and feel that. And the fear that comes up is, am I just going to sit here for the whole time and be a robot, or I wonder if that's like being a robot or a statue, and miss a beautiful opportunity? But at this point, I trust that more than the thinking. So I do that, and it works out really nicely. Like I'm doing, they're called dyads when it's with you and one other person. So I'm doing dyads with people, and there's still the anxiety about, should I end this? Are they gonna end it? We can't just do this all day. But I push those away, and it ends naturally when it ends. And I shift my posture naturally when it's time to shift. And it's not just some speculative, oh, maybe I should adjust, I don't feel good. It's a real embodied motion. So it's going great. And then later that day, I get to a really focused state, and the group starts working with me again, where they see an opportunity where I could really go deep and learn a lot. And it's so beautiful. It's all your friends around you, and they're all just working with you to help you to be the real you. And during this, Tim's coming up again, and I'm saying no. And what I was saying was, I am not going to move until it comes from a natural place. And of course, the anxiety is of, am I going to be a statue? Am I going to be a robot? But at this point, I was done with living like that. So if it means being a robot, that's better at this moment. So I'm only feeling my body. And sometimes one of the guests is doing this technique on me to help me get my posture better. So I'm kind of she'll shift me and I'll kind of just move, and I won't stop myself unless it comes from a natural place. And so I'm kind of going about, and it ended up being very beautiful. Got some real emotion out, and tapped into a deeper place. So then after this, I'm really at this extreme where I think I'm just going to stay in my body and not come out, and that's going to be the real me. And so, for example, I'll be in the hallway, and somebody will come by and we'll start a conversation, and it worked great in these situations. I don't leave unless there's a real reason to leave. I don't just leave because I think a conversation should only last 10 minutes. I stay in it until it's not anxiety, until it's something real. But when the retreat ended, it immediately became clear I can't keep doing this because I had to do this talk. And my plan was to just come up here and just feel my body. And I just noticed again, I've been totally out of my body. It feels sad, actually. But my plan was to just feel my body. And I figured if I did that, the talk would happen. It would just come out naturally. But it seems more like this is kind of like an adolescent stage where I can't feel my body enough for that to happen yet. So it would just be me sitting here for an hour. And yeah, that doesn't seem right. So feeling like some tingliness because I am at the end of the story, but there was a few other things I wanted to communicate, and I don't have them.
How does that make you feel?
It's like just feeling a deep breathing right now. And it's, also feeling the lower back. So I guess this is the point where I go back to Tim and I end the talk because it's a process. And I'm still figuring it out, so. All right, well, thank you everyone for listening. And we'll now get to practice, trying to tap into the real us and who we are and going deeper. So we'll start out with a seated meditation. And I'll ring the bell for that. So let's take this opportunity of no responsibilities. We don't have to give a talk. We don't have to drive a car. We're just sitting, and I'll keep track of the time. So let's feel into our bodies and try to feel into, you can do the breath, you can do a body scan where you feel your head and then your face and your neck, your chest. You can feel your feet on the ground, however you want to do it. But just feel your body, and when Tim starts talking to you about what you should be doing, just come right back and feel your body. As you feel your body, note the quality of what it feels like. If listening to your body feels trustworthy to you. Now let's keep our breath or our body as an anchor point. But as you keep your attention on your breath or your body, also note the thoughts that are coming up in your mind. So instead of just turning away from the thoughts and coming back to the body, observe the thoughts fully for what they are without getting lost in them, and then come right back to the breath or the body. And feel what it feels like to listen to these thoughts. Do these also feel trustworthy? When I ring the bell, we'll stop the silence and we'll go into a 10-minute period. In this period, you can keep sitting, you can walk, you can go to the bathroom, you can talk to your friend or someone you don't know. But as you make these decisions and go about the 10-minute period, be aware of if the decision is coming from your body, if it's coming from your thoughts, or if it's coming from both, and what that feels like. So maybe if you're talking to somebody, maybe play with what it feels like to not listen to your thoughts and just to stay in your body. And it might get scary if there's nothing to say, but just keep feeling what that feels like. Or you can go with your thought, but note what that feels like as well. Just experiment with all these things as we go about the period. All right, so now you have the option of participating in an activity. So this activity, you don't have to do it. You can stay seated and you can do your practice, you can meditate, but you also could participate. So this activity will be just being with a partner, but there won't be any speaking. And once we pair up, I'll explain more about how this will go. So find somebody near you and adjust so you can face each other. If there's an odd number, I can be a partner as well. Does anybody want a partner that does not have one? Okay. Just waiting for Peter to come back. Okay, so during this exercise, we're going to explore how being with other people affects being in our bodies. So let's start out just by keeping our eyes closed and feeling into our bodies. And feeling the presence of our partner in front of us. And when I hit the bell, you are invited to open your eyes and to meet your partner. Now during this, you can keep attention on your body while you also see your partner. So you're with them and you're also with yourself. And if If you ever want to close your eyes or look away or even stop doing this, feel free to do that. And let's all close our eyes again. And for the next part of this, there will be speaking. So if you're not comfortable with that, feel free to leave your partner. Miles and I are extra people that we can join in if needed. So when we open our eyes, we will be noticing things in our partner. This will go back and forth. So one person will notice something, and then the other person will notice something. Now, we're not noticing things we imagine they're experiencing. We're just noticing very concrete things like the way the light is on their face or the color of their shirt, things that are inarguable, just very concrete things. And it will go back and forth. And while you're doing this, keep awareness in your body as well. When I ring the bell, we can start.
Notice you're looking around.
Noticing you have hazel eyes, or a light brownish color, greenish.
I noticed you just closed your mouth.
Notice you have some light right here.
I notice your hands are resting like this.
I just noticed that when you lifted up your shield, I saw like one, like beam of light glasses.
Do you think kind of want to change partners? Because I wonder if they want to get engaged.
I want to look more at that. It looked cool.
Maybe not.
Why don't you? Did they decide not to be in it? Why? Just at the beginning, when you went to partner work?
One seemed curious about switching into
You can make an announcement again. If you ever want to get engaged, just put your hand up. We'll find a partner for you. Notice you looking around. I notice you laugh.
Noticing birthmark right here.
Notice him breathe into your chest.
Noticing your facial hair.
noticing your smile at the end. It felt like it did the same thing, or the same feeling.
It exists. It's a thing.
Closed your mouth.
The same as you?
No, the same thing I noticed
How
before.
were the rims of your glasses on?
Noticing
Still not
the way the shadow
called to look at it.
for,
I'm noticing your signs of people just wanting to make a value judgment.
I guess just, yeah, the shadow around your eyes. Or the light, the way the light is around your eyes.
Noticing the light flickering inside of your eyes.
Yeah, I'm noticing you're kind of going in and out of solidity.
Yeah.
You look a little bit like my sister, actually.
There seems to be a window right behind your ears.
Notice
The world, like the world opens up, yeah. Your ears
Yeah.
I'm noticing the
You could always corral it to emotionally relevant information too.
Mm.
Light reflecting.
You know, and no more where the light is stuff. Which is
Mm.
Yeah.
I was gonna go to
So one way to look around, making eye contact.
noticing inside.
self and
one area is just having
okay, let's bring the noticings to a close. And we'll close our eyes again. And at the ring of the bell, we'll now be noticing in ourself or in our partner. And for yourself, you could also include more information. It could be emotions, it could be thoughts, and for your partner, you can imagine things. So, for example, I notice that you just yawned, and I imagine you're tired. Or I noticed you just shifted your posture, and I imagine you're feeling uncomfortable in your seat. And this will also be back and forth. We'll do one more activity. And at this moment, by the way, your eyes could be closed. They can still be open with your partner if you'd like. Or they could be slightly open and your gaze down. And once again, if you, at this point, if you do want a partner, please raise your hand and Miles or I will join. For this activity, one of the people will start and they will share something about themselves. Maybe I notice I have a desire to move my body. And then the partner will ask them, what's that like? Then the person will answer and the partner will come again. What's that like? And you continue on this thread until you can't go anymore, until you really can't go anymore. And when you can't go anymore, you can share another noticing about yourself. And then the partner, what's that like? When I ring the bell, we will switch partners and do the same.
Can you repeat the first sentence?
The way to start, one of the partners, whoever decides to go first, will notice something about themselves.
About themselves?
Yeah.
Okay,
Thanks for clarifying. Switch partners. before we conclude this part of the evening, let's come back for just a minute to being in our bodies with our partner, with your eyes open if you would like, but they don't have to be. Noticing how your body is affected, how it is when you're with your partner. And let's give a silent expression of gratitude in some way. And we'll go back to our seats. So now we have about 20 minutes for, you can share your experiences if you'd like. You can ask questions for each other or for me. And one note is that if you're sharing about your experience, your partner, don't share personal things about your partner, or name your partner unless they told. Just don't name your partner, just speak about your partner. All right, the floor is open.
I have a question for you about something you talked about that happened on the retreat. So you were talking about one of the guests in you, after they had like some resistance to connecting with you, after some time where you were having kind of like a difficult time staying in your body during a circle before that, they gave you like a challenge to really be present with them, and you said it was a very powerful part of the retreat for you. I was just curious, like what about that challenge and what about that part of the retreat made it, like how was it powerful for you?
You mean that particular interaction?
Yeah.
I think it was that it was so hard to stay with her, and I was so close to just going into my old patterns and to just saying my anxieties and breaking away from her. And it was just on that edge where I was almost going to do that, but I just stayed with her. And it was amazing to see the shift from there, and just to see it get more intense, more connected, and just to see how that can happen. And I think also hearing again, like someone saying, like, I want you to be in your body, like I can't connect with you if you're not in your body. And then she said, I'm not gonna leave, I'm not gonna break this if you're in your body. Like I only want to leave if you're out of your body. It's a real sense of friendship. Yeah. Yeah.
First, just grateful for the invitation to witness the birthday circle at
Oh,
the
cool.
beginning. It just felt like a really precious container in which to be held. And yeah, it's so rare to have an opportunity to be in a space where the goal is to be, where the intention is just to become attuned to a person.
Mm.
And I feel like it's exercises like that that enable us to move toward empathy, which I think is one of the greatest healing salves available to us. So
Yeah.
very cool to witness that. Also just wanted to name the courage it takes to sit up there and give a talk. And I really felt you authentically appreciated your transparency throughout around talking about the retreat, and also in the moment when you noticed yourself kind of float out of your body, naming that was helpful, and I felt really connected to you as a speaker. And then finally there's a theme of realness, of course, throughout your talk. And I felt like both a sense of inquiry around that, like, am I being real? Am I showing up as real? And then also a sense of desire, wanting to connect to whatever being real means within you. So my question is, like, how do you know when you're showing up as your real self? And do you have a go-to tool for landing back in that space when you notice you've fallen out of it?
Thanks for all of that. Really helpful to hear that. For me now, it's that when I move, it feels it feels beautiful. I just love my body, and the same with speaking. It just it's enjoyable, and there's no doubt or self-judgment when I'm being real. And even when I do things that don't have positive results, there's no shame about it. Yeah, I think that's the best I can answer it.
Yeah, that's great, thanks.
I was wondering during the sit if you had any insights into like what being real is for you.
You know, it's something I've been unpacking and teasing out for a long time. And right now the best working definition I have of what's real is that which is unchanging. So when I can connect with a place within me that doesn't react one way or another to my circumstances, doesn't get sucked up in like the roller coaster of life. It's that, that just unwavering steadiness upon which everything else is standing or held or built. Which is also kind of vague, but that's what I've got.
That makes sense. Yeah. And I realized I didn't quite answer your question with the go-to. I think for me the go-to is just not doing anything until I feel the pull. So it'll become super awkward or whatever it becomes, but it'll get me back into, yeah.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah, thank you too.
Well, I'm sorry I was late, so I have a question. Is Tim your real
name? Tim is a person. Well, it was when I was going into my typical patterns.
Yes.
And just the not the real me.
Yeah.
Peter offered he said we can name that Tim.
Oh, okay. All right. Great. So I missed that. Sorry.
Yeah.
So I thought it was something like that, but I just I was excited to come tonight because I knew you would all be fresh from this retreat and I would get a little bit of it, and I can just feel your excitement about it, and what you learned, and I really appreciate that. And I kind of had a breakthrough when I was partnering with Dan about how I've had this sort of slump in my chest that feels like an old slipper, and I sit in it in meditation in it, and I haven't wanted to let it go. like, I'm like, this is comfortable for me. I know Soryu says sit up straight, everybody says sit up straight, but I really like this, and I'm gonna stay here, and so I've held on to that. And I don't know, there was something about being with Dan, I just got this permission to get a little more energy at the base of my spine, and it's just the difference between this and this. It's just like a quarter of an inch. And I was like, whoa. It's like I took off this pair of old slippers that, don't really fit my feet, and I kind of slide around and slip and slide, and suddenly I have this new supportive energy inside. And I was like, it was really different, and it felt really great. So I had that sort of breakthrough tonight, and I can feel it now. This versus this, this versus this, and it was like, why have I been holding on to this for so long? It's like it really was. It was really interesting. So thank you.
Yeah.
I also just want to say that's a wonderful metaphor that you use. Slippery. I think it's like so universal to habit patterns and stuff. It just gets comfortable and what you're used to, and you don't want to let it go.
Yeah, it was like, I like this. It's comfortable. I'm warm. I feel good. I mean, I'm not letting this go. And then all of a
It's not
sudden, it's like,
supporting you anymore.
right. Yeah. So
Do you have a sense of why being with Dan made that?
I don't know. Well, it was being in the body and noticing this. Okay, this is my old slipper, and for some reason I didn't get the feeling of I want to hold on to this. I got the feeling of I want to try something else. I don't know why that happened, but I just did try something else. So
Awesome.
So thank you.
Yeah, and that just feels like what was happening on the retreat. Like, we don't know why, but amazing things are happening.
This is so interesting because I think that that might be a key to some of the magic of circling that I never saw until now. It's like I feel the same way. Like somehow, like when I was just sitting with Django, and then I'd feel something, and then his constant inquiry, like just had it moving much more than it normally does. Like things that would normally just kind of stay and linger, like start evolving. So maybe there's somehow like being with someone else with that right kind of holding, and like I don't know. I'm just very intrigued by what you just said.
Yeah. It was a really interesting experience. Yeah.
That's great. Thanks for sharing. Jessie, I thought. Yeah.
Yes. And what was your name?
Julia.
Julia. When you shared and you spoke about something that you felt was essential when it didn't change, and then when this came up about change or no change in the old slipper, I said, oh, because there was something that all of a sudden I came to alertness when you said that. And there was something like I really don't know all the particulars of what you're talking about or what you're referring to in the earlier discussion. And yet I question, when something doesn't change, does that mean it's essential? Is it maybe something where, like the old slipper, And I just wanted to put that out, that it occurred to me, not that it's true. I really appreciate that sharing, just to recognize the value of change. And also, I wanted to say that, Andrea, when you were over across and you were having the discussion, I had chosen not to move at all. And I had my eyes open, and I just noticed, and everything in the room was like this perfect movie. Like you all had your parts, and you had the script, and you knew what you were supposed to do, and you were over there just so that I could see it, and it was just so fascinating to to witness everything as in life, in that presence, and so that it then became the perfect movie for whatever that moment was revealing. I don't know what that means, but it was very valuable to sit still, and for me personally, I'm very vulnerable and sensitive to sounds and movement, and I said, Jesse, you really gonna just sit here while everybody's doing all these things that irritate you? Yes.
Wow.
And it was wonderful.
Wow.
Well, thank you. That's really nice. A good share.
Yeah.
And I totally appreciate it, seeing the two of you speak and being very present. And I was feeling very present with you being present, and then everybody being present, and they were following your direction. Very good.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that.
At the beginning of the process of partner activity, I initially felt extremely vulnerable because I didn't want to be revealed, and I felt that it didn't matter if we were speaking. I already have pretty expressive presence, and that just looking at me, I would be revealed. Like somebody would know about my sadness or my insecurities or whatever. Like it was all just there, like a slideshow. And I was irritated that we had to speak it all because I felt like it's all there. It's already all there. Why do we even have to talk about anything? So then I wanted to like hide. Like I wanted to like hide under my blanket or do what I did when I was a kid, was go in my closet with my dog and just wait for everything to change, which never happened really. It was a temporary pause. And then I named it when we were talking about how we felt. I said, I feel like you can see my sadness or something. And it became like when you have repetitive thoughts that are kind of like your greatest hits when you're meditating, and you go, there it is, instead of like getting it hardcore and then it pendulums back, then you just sort of like acknowledge it. So I definitely named it, and you know, naming something is really powerful. So I took it from the thought and the kind of like, it's like a prickly, like irritant, like, oh, everybody, this person's gonna see my shit, like that's gonna be right there, and like, and then I named it, and then it was like, it was like I think I gave it more power because I was afraid of it. And then when I named it, it became like a gift. And that's something I experienced.
Thank you for just how valuable this process is, and you took that and you did it. It's really beautiful to hear that.
Thanks.
I find myself still curious just about so you named it and it became a gift. Just what that felt like, I guess, or what?
That accepting that suffering and insecurity and various forms of pain are part of the churning and growth and the spiral of life. And that it wasn't necessarily something that was going to take me off my path or put me in a more safe place.
Yeah. That's for this week. I think that was one of the most powerful things. It was, I know I did, and I imagine others did as well, where it would become exciting when something scary would come up, or some old terrible pattern would come up, because we knew that once you see it, what you just experienced can happen. Thanks again for telling us.
I've been thinking that in that story before he left, the last few Sundays spoke about the value of community and commended us to our community.
Yeah.
I wanted to thank you for leading us this evening in such a way that we could experience that community and it could expand and become richer because of what we did.
You're welcome. And Judy came up to the center that yesterday. I mean,
Last month.
and well, for me, that was really helpful, just to kind of prep the talk with you there, and it just that same nice feeling you're talking about, to have you there, now see you here, and yeah, thank you. Yeah, we're nearing the end, just so you know, in terms of how much to, how to share it. Yeah.
I wanted to share that it's so nice to be around all of you, and how different everyone seems, and to you, Django, just when you came up and greeted me outside when I first arrived, I did experience something new with you that I had not experienced with you before, and I just I really would probably have more to say if I had more time, but I just wanted to say mostly, just like it just really amazing, just looking at Dan and looking at Miles and looking at Andrea and just being here and just seeing everybody and feeling so seen.
You can talk more, it's fine. We're good on time.
Just nice looking around at everyone. Look at everyone. Cameron healed old something in me by being with me just now.
Jennifer, I felt that also, the way we interacted, it struck me, and also wanted you to know that your birthday circle on the weekend, that also stayed with me as a model of how I could be, how vulnerable I could be. So thanks for setting that example.
Thank you so much for being there.